Okay, here's a little update on our Suburban project. It's taken way too much time considering COVID slowed everything down. I should have got more done. But if you saw the previous video where I did a little shop tour and you saw some of the videos where I did some repairs on this thing, this will give you a little idea that things aren't completely stalled, but they're moving. Right, Athena? Well, here we go. Okay, so first off, here's the engine bay again. The 350, 30 over, so technically a 355. All that stuff's complete. Put a vintage air front runner on it. It's running, it just needs exhaust yet. The front I painted because I wanted to get this part assembled so that there was no hiccups about putting the grill together. I'm gonna end up having to take this back and forth to a buddy's shop to do some of the final paint work and body work. But the agenda is to finish this side. Now, this front fender was an original fender off a different car, but it's an original 60 to 66 front fender. I had to do some actual minimal rust repair, but removing the emblem, since this is going to be a custom, had some weird little rust pockets and things up here that are all buttoned up, just roughed in as far as the filler is concerned. Still have the other side to do. We'll get to that here in a minute. But this was the big side to tackle. If you remember from the previous video, this whole bedside from there to there had this incredible brazing separated by several inches. They had replaced this whole panel sometime in its past. Well, fortunately, I started with another one of these. I was able to cut a big section of material out of to do these repairs with. This was an early repair. I wire welded it. You can tell the difference immediately between TIG repairs and how much better you can finish those versus when you squirt some wet metal in there, because it's just harder in general. But you can see that I had to cut out sections, replace those sections. I hid the top seam up here in the window frame, which worked out really good, and then welded all the way down this panel. I did cut out some internal area to get some access back here so I could get a hammer, dolly, sandbags, whatever else I needed. But ultimately, this gigantic scar that was going to be the worst problem in this project is basically done, aside from some more finish work. Now, get this door open. Come on. The other thing is just working on some of these little deals, lining up doors. There was a rust hole up here that I've repaired. That was kind of a mysterious rust spot, but I think it was a combination of moisture on the inside from this sitting in the salvage yard, water getting down in this seam where the two panels are mated together. But I had to, when I was doing this whole side repair, I had to go down and I had to grind out all of the brazing and redo this whole seam. That was a lot of work. I also had to bring this back out a little bit. I had to bring this part back in. There's some things that are still off about it. It's actually, depending on which part of the panel, everything's slightly low, and there's no way around it. I've fixed the bottom, took out rivets and welded that in. I had to bring this whole bottom piece out because when they had put the patch on there, you could tell this was the area that got damaged for the original repair. That had to come back out internally, and that was a little bit of work, but it wasn't too bad. Okay, rocker replacement, not a big deal. Those the replacement panels that you can get from these companies are not the greatest thing on planet Earth, but as you can see, I've welded up some seams. There's a little bit of an inconsistency in the height, and there was some inconsistencies in the shape that follows back here. So there's either going to be a little bit of lead that goes in here to level that back out. There'll definitely be a little bit of filler. And you can also tell, going back to the custom stuff, rounded the door corner. I think overall that makes a lot smoother transition, especially for these Suburbans. Now with the door, This was a door off a different vehicle. Been working on these seam lines. I had to bring the A-pillar out a little bit up top. That's been that way since Jump Street because this original paint, you could tell the other door was rubbing there. Filling holes, used actually some nail heads. I learned a trick from a buddy of mine to take those solid steel nails you can buy at the hardware store and use those as plugs. Excellent way to do that. You can just hold them in there, TIG around them, chop the top off, nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about having copper backing and all this other stuff. You can get them in different sizes and trim this outside of the nail head down to your specific needed diameter. But there is a little bit more of a crown in here. I did some rust repair across the bottom of this with some patch panels, rounding the corner, complicated things. But there's a couple spots of rust repair, and I'm gonna actually, this is all primer just to keep it sealed up, but I am gonna get a shrinking disc. I'm gonna have to bring down this surface a little bit to pull everything back in. They seem to all have a little bit of a natural crown, but we'll get that remedied and we'll have a nice smooth surface. There's gonna be a little bit more filler along this line that'll carry that line up because that whole thing's down. It's the only way I could go about it without recutting off the entire panel. Could open up a whole can of worms doing that if I did it the other way, but it's not gonna be a lot. So this has all been replaced and repaired with good 1962 metal. Actually, the parts one that I took all the panels off of was a 62, so same diameter or same density metal. One sacrificed its life for this one. Now this was all smashed in. Again, that's the problem with a lot of these. You have to cut yourself some access panels. So I got some access holes, had this patch. Here's another example of the difference between TIG welding sheet metal and doing some wire feeding. It just shrinks, it's a little harder, just shrinks a little more even if you're blowing air on it. It's not bad, it's actually a lot straighter. I just cut this the other day to make sure that line is perfect. But this was all folded in. Using that access, I was able to stretch this material back out using a combination of shop bag and some other things. I was able to get the metal kind of back into a good form with some hammer and dolly work. This was the other repair seam, but got the tailgate on there, trying to get it fitted, which has been not too bad since this isn't the one for this Suburban. It takes a little bit more fit and finish. This is all areas that you can tell they brazed these points. I don't know if you can see that brazing still left in there, but there's still some adjustments, some finish welding here, some more little fiddly things to do. And back on this side, sorry for the light, this side's basically done. I'm gonna go back over some of the welds, go back over some areas that need to be softened a little bit more, just shrunk a little bit more, worked a little bit more, just some refinement. That's the next step. And then once I can get all the other side over there done and all the way back around, I'll continue working back down this side. This is pretty good, even though it looks like a big scratch. It's really pretty much where it needs to be. There we go, that's a little bit better. That flashlight definitely helps. There's a couple lower dents that need to come out that are gonna need a little more body work. I'm actually gonna try and work out this weld up here a little bit more so that it'll stretch and be minimal filler. Here, move your butt, Athena. Then the next big step is the same process I did on the other side. This is the factory door, it's never been off. That rocker's getting replaced. All this rust that's creeping through like all these have, that's gotta be replaced. So I'm gonna end up building some different things. Rust repair on the door, hole filling, alignment. This is such an example of how crappy they did these. That door, that line there, body line, it's about right where it needs to be, but that's where they put the factory trim. Just wasn't the best. These were not meant to be super luxury handcrafted vehicles. They were workhorses, utilitarian. So those will come off. I'll fill some holes. We'll re-drill the holes, reset the trim where it needs to be. You know, just time consuming stuff. I don't have all the hours in the day to work on this. I have to maintain my business. And especially during COVID, and all this craziness going on, I haven't really had the opportunity to do everything I'd like to do on this thing. You know, it's a bit of a struggle when you can't go to as many events, you can't do as much, but still want to keep working on this. Still need to get it moving forward. Now is the time. Fortunately, as you can see, things are getting better. Here's another shot of the inside of the door. See, the rounded corner really flows nicely. Those are the Thunderbird seats. I got all the nice finished dash and stuff all covered up. But I think this old girl's coming along pretty nicely. For being a salvage yard rig that sat there for God knows how long, beat to hell, not too bad for a punk kid in a garage. Oh, and just since we're in here, here's another little tidbit. I de-ectofied the 59. You know, that was a temporary thing. This car is gonna get the full treatment one of these days, but I got some some nice magnet decals. There's the light that was on it for the Ecto dress up video. Are you my backup, Athena? And I've moved all the working projects into this side of the shop. This is the hot rod that I built from basically nothing. It will be a finished hot rod, not a rat rod. 331 caddy, extended the body, whole bunch of things going on here. But it was time to move these projects to where I could actually do something with them. But first things first, we'll get this bad boy done. We're farther along. That's the update. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it gives some inspiration if you're struggling with your own project. Bodywork is a giant pain in the ass, but with a little bit of time, patience, you know, I've been cleaning up dollies, been making a slap hammer. Oh, this is actually made out of a Model A, well, 30s Ford front spring. You know, sometimes you got to make your own tools. I used this guy and some hammers and dollies for that whole side. And if I'd have had this guy all along, it probably would have gone a lot smoother and a lot quicker. But, you know, sometimes you just got to make your own tools. Here's another thing I wanted to show off. It's hard to see, but this tailgate top is just absolutely hammered. It's like they were throwing rocks on it and then picking them up and throwing more rocks on it. I don't know how this thing got this beat up, but I think the only solution is that's gonna have to come out of there and then be either straightened or replaced. It's pretty gnarly. But it's all just things. It's all just things. They all take a lot of time. If you're doing it yourself, there's a value, I think, to taking your time and doing them yourself. You earn a lot more internal pride. But I think that's the point, right? You could pay somebody to do all this stuff if you have the money, but if you want to save the money and use your God-given talent or use your God-given know-how to manipulate tools, this is the only way to go. And there's a picture of the paint scheme. That's that Watson style panel job I've talked about in the previous video. That's where that gold on the front comes into play. The factory terrace blue. Those two colors. And amazingly enough, I believe that was Olympic white, which was the original color for this car. So I've got Gentleman Jim Gold, or medium metallic GM Gold from the 70s, 59 Cadillac, and 62 GMC factory color white, which is on those inserts on the side, and then the factory terrace blue. Kind of a cool combination. All colors that I'm pretty fond of. I think it'll really pop. You get a set of lake pipes on this, have some internal hidden muffled exhaust pipes. Maybe some cutouts, maybe some mechanical cutouts or electrical cutouts, a little above my pay grade, but we'll see. There's the update. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the video of this thing getting turned into the little baby version of Ecto from Ghostbusters, that video is available in the link. You can watch the other videos I did about this thing and, you know, do what everybody asks. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Hopefully this can be an inspiration for other people in the same boat. Thanks for watching. Till the next time. Right, Athena?